Hi everyone, it's Heather from heatherdebreceni.com and empowerdivorcesummit.com, and I want to thank you for joining me today as we go into part 2 of episode 1, season 1 of the Empower Divorce Summit series. And in this part of the episode, I am actually going to be defining what is high conflict divorce and how you can see some signs if you might be either in the middle of one or gearing up to be in the middle of one. And I really hope that you find this information useful. If you do, go ahead and give it a like. If you are new to the channel and you would like to be notified when I upload more interviews and more parts to the Summit series, there's quite a few. You can go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified. If you would like more information and you would like to see, the entire text transcript of this interview in the whole form instead of in parts, you can visit my website at heatherdebreceni.com, and there is a link in the comments down below which will tell you how you can do that. And also at the end of the video, please be sure to watch all the way through, because I will be giving you some information on how you can get a complimentary coaching session with me if you found the information in here useful. So again, I hope you enjoy this. This is season 1, episode 1, part 2 of a 5-part series. What I want to do is really talk to you about what is my specialty and my passion. And if you're listening and you find yourself in the middle of or kind of facing a high conflict divorce, I want to make sure that I give you some tips that will help you. So, since I can't spend time with all of you because there's quite a few people listening to this, thankfully. So let's start by defining what constitutes a high conflict divorce. So a high conflict divorce is one where normally the stakes are very high. One of the parties in this divorce, in these types of divorces, are at risk for losing their children. It has a very, high conflict cases have a very warlike feel to them, and the parties involved often describe it as sort of going into battle. These cases have frequent court appearances. In a normal case where everything is wonderful, you may never need to go back to court. But what happens in these high conflict cases is that the parties involved are really unable to resolve their issues, and the conflict just sort of continues, and it escalates and it escalates. And what happens is that neither side is really willing or able to see the other side's position. So everything just sort of keeps mounting from there. It depends on your jurisdiction how often frequent court appearances is defined. But I would say if you feel like your case either starts out and you come to the table and you can't agree on anything, or you find yourself continually going back to court because you can't agree on things. You can't agree on parenting. You can't agree on anything. So that being said, there are also a couple other issues that play into a high conflict divorce case. One that seems to be prevalent is that the children end up being used as pawns. And I will go into that a little bit later on, but the children really become a weapon against the other parents without a whole lot of regard for the impact that it's having on them. And personality disorders tend to be common in one or both parties who are involved. Doesn't mean that it's required. It doesn't mean that that happens in every case. But in the truly high conflict cases, you do see that there tends to be narcissistic personality disorder or cluster B personality disorders in general. So all that being said, when you find yourself in the middle of these high conflict divorces, it can become very important to the strategic plan as soon as you realize that that's what's happening. Because if you don't take control and create that plan for how you're going to steer this sort of behemoth that your divorce has become, you're going to be at the mercy of your former spouse, of all the attorneys involved, And in, the worst case scenario, which I know this sounds weird saying this, but in the worst case scenario, you're going to find yourself at the mercy of the court. And at least when you're dealing with the attorneys and your former spouse, there's a chance that you will be able to reach some form of agreement. So that means that you will have some role in determining what happens in your situation. If it gets to the point where it's being determined by the courts, you really don't know what's going to happen. Because although you may think you have a really strong case, it's really up to the judge. And the judge doesn't have the luxury of taking your feelings into consideration. He really just, he or she just really is looking at what the law says is required in your case and what case law supports happening. So that is a worst case scenario. So that being said, if you don't pick the right support for you in your case, like an attorney, a counselor, a divorce coach who has experience in working with these kinds of cases, you actually run the risk of paying in more ways than a financial way. Because really what is ultimately at stake is your children. Because in these types of cases, what you are really risking in continuing on without the right support and without the right tools is losing your children. And that is a very real possibility.
Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you found the information useful. I know that when I decided to define high conflict divorce, I really actually had to confer with a couple of colleagues so that we could come up with a definition that we hoped would work across all states. And so I hope that you found that helpful. And if you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and a like so that we know we can maybe work on, or I can work on trying to create more content like this in the future. If you are new to the channel, again, don't forget to subscribe so that you can get notified when I upload more interviews and more parts to the series. And I really hope that if you found the information useful, that you can go ahead and hit the share button as well, so that you can share it with your friends and other people that you feel might find the information useful for them in their journey. And lastly, I want to fulfill the promise that I made at the beginning of this video and say that if you would like to receive a complimentary coaching session with me, you can look in the comments section down below, and there is a link to my scheduling software so that you can sign up for one of those complimentary sessions. And they are conducted via Skype so that I can see you and you can see me, and we can decide if we are a good fit and if we would be a good team working together, and so that I can know a little bit more about where you're at in your divorce journey. So thank you, and thank you again for taking the steps to create positive change in your life and in your children's lives. And I really look forward to seeing your comments and speaking with you in your sessions.